She stole my fiancé and my money, and my own mother told me not to ruin the wedding with my drama. But the truth is, I was the one quietly bankrolling the entire celebration right down to the flowers and the venue. And when I finally pulled the plug, their perfect day collapsed in front of hundreds of guests, while I walked out without a word. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't yet. Now let's begin. In my town, life runs on routine: Friday night lights, church bells, lesson plans, crock-pot dinners. It is ordinary by design. I'm Clara Jameson, 29, third-grade teacher at Maple Ridge Elementary, and if people describe me, they say, dependable. I'm engaged to Ryan Keller, my high school almost sweetheart, who came back with a corporate job and a grin that could sell snow in January. We rent a modest 2-bedroom on Hawthorne Street. Ryan says this is the year we stop treading water a fixer-upper, a shelter dog, maybe a fall wedding, if money behaves, especially on a teacher's salary. Ask my family. My mom Linda divorced since I was 23, and my little sister Olivia. Mom copes by telling herself hard parts are temporary. Her asks begin with, "Baby, can you spot me until Friday?" Friday rarely arrives on time. Olivia, 27, is planning a wedding like it's the Met Gala, funny, bright, and allergic to no. I love her, but she spends money that isn't hers, and laughs like we're just trying things on. I'm the saver, the coupon clipper, the one who knows which store doubles on Wednesdays. Being that person feels like quiet patriotism, useful, unflashy, grounded in the belief you fix your own life. I was raised on hard work, sacrifice, loyalty, and showing up even when it costs. At school, when kids draw cornfields and barbecues to show community, I tell them it's also shoveling a neighbor's sidewalk without being asked. Ryan teases I'd Venmo the fire department if they let me. Sometimes my giving dents our month, but he brings coffee on report card Saturdays, and I let myself believe steadiness counts as romance here. Olivia's wedding has become a town event mostly because she wants it that way. Floral mock-ups spill off Mom's table. Vendors know Olivia and call me for deposits because my number is on everything, the practical older sister who answers. It started small, 10 here, 40 there, custom place cards because the free ones were apparently disrespectful to calligraphy. I paid because that's what I do, and because after Dad died, I promised I'd be the kind of daughter he'd be proud of. Dad used to say, "Keep your word like you keep your car regular maintenance or it breaks down." He taught me to change a tire in the school parking lot. Since then, when the budget squeals, I hear him. Tonight, after dismissal, I stapled paper leaves to our kindness tree, swept glitter from a science project gone rogue, and drove home past the diner with the neon PIE sign. The apartment smelled like lemon soap. Ryan texted he'd be late, quarter-end push, so I made a grilled cheese and opened the mail. Coupons, alumni magazine, a student loan reminder. Then the credit card envelope thicker than normal. I don't love opening statements. They feel like a rubric for my life. Still, I sliced it open and slid the pages free. New balance, $12,048.67. I blinked, subtracting last payment and expected charges. Something was wrong. I flipped the page. There they were. Willow and Lace Bridal, $2, $400. Magnolia Ridge Events, $5,800. Ivy and Ash Florals, $1, $750. Joyful Noise, DJ, $650. A cake deposit at Sugar Finch. A rush fee at a boutique I couldn't place. Dates from the last 6 weeks. My name at the top. My card number. My liability. The room narrowed. I set the paper down because my hands were shaking. Olivia had my card number for emergencies. 3 years ago, after Mom's car died in February, I added her as an authorized user just in case. Just in case turned into an invisible line item in her life, a safety net I forgot to reel back in. We talked about boundaries, sort of. I said, "Text me before you use it." She said, "Of course you're the best." The text slowed to a trickle, the charges learned to gallop. I checked my phone expecting an explanation. Nothing from Olivia. A selfie from Mom of table runners. A heart from Ryan at noon, then silence. I traced each vendor with my finger like touch could change ink. Magnolia Ridge was the venue Olivia wouldn't stop talking about, the barn with chandeliers like star maps. She'd said she had it covered. Mom had said, "Your sister has taste." Nodding was cheaper than explaining the math. $12,000 isn't a mistake you smooth with a joke. It's rent and groceries and the cushion between an ordinary crisis and a freefall. In a town like ours, we don't talk about money unless we whisper. We say tight month and we'll make do and God provides. I thought about kids who slip extra breakfast milks into their backpacks and the PTA mom who pressed a gas card into my hand when she heard my brakes squealed. Community. I've always believed is a circle that widens when you give and somehow holds when you need. Tonight, the circle felt like a lasso. I ran the tap, splashed my face, waited for clarity after water and breath. In the living room, the ring Ryan picked oval modest sat in its dish, catching lamplight like a quiet promise. I want a simple life: potlucks, block parties, kids in Halloween costumes who know our names, a mortgage I can predict. A life where resilience is practice, not performance. The bill in my hand said something else. I was financing someone else's dream because I'd been too loyal to notice the creep. Train horn across town. My phone buzzed. A text from Olivia burst on the screen, cheerful as confetti. Found the perfect string lights for the dance floor. I looked back at the vendor list at the total that didn't blink. The last line item glared like a dare. Final venue hold non-refundable. I pressed my lips together until they hurt and read the number again, slow, like sounding out a hard word in class. $12,048.67. Linked to my sister's wedding vendors. On my card. And I hadn't authorized a cent. The morning after the bill arrived, I drove to Mom's house with the statement folded neatly in my purse. I kept telling myself there had to be a mistake. Maybe a double charge. Maybe Olivia had meant to use her own card. But when I parked in the driveway, the truth was already humming under my ribs. Olivia's SUV sat out front, a mountain of bridal catalogs spilling from the back seat. The porch was draped with fabric swatches like a boutique exploded. Inside, laughter floated from the kitchen, bright and easy. Mom and Olivia were bent over a stack of mason jars, tying twine bows. Olivia looked up, her cheeks flushed with excitement, and grinned. "Clara. Perfect timing, you have a good eye for detail." I didn't return the smile. I laid the statement on the counter, smoothing it flat. "Olivia, did you charge your wedding expenses on my credit card?" Her expression barely flickered. She glanced at the paper, then back at me like I'd pointed out a typo in a recipe. "Oh, that. Yeah, I had to put those deposits down fast or we'd lose the vendors. Total emergency. Don't worry, I'll pay you back after the honeymoon. Emergency, like flat tires or ER visits, not string lights and monogrammed napkins." My throat tightened. $12,000 isn't a loan, Olivia. That's theft. You didn't even ask. She waved her hand dismissive. "Clara, relax. It's my wedding. It's family. We're all in this together." Before I could respond, Mom straightened, pushing her glasses up. "Honey, don't be selfish. Olivia's under so much stress. Can't you just support her for once? You know she'll make it right eventually." Selfish. The word cracked against my chest like a slap. I stared at Mom, the woman who'd taught me to pay bills before buying new shoes, who used to scold us if we borrowed without asking. She was siding with Olivia as if $12,000 were a grocery tab. "I don't have that kind of money to float," I said quietly. "This is my credit, my future, my rent." Olivia rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on. You're a teacher, you have steady income. Ryan's got a good job. You're fine. Besides, you know Dad would have wanted us to have a beautiful wedding." "Dad." She dragged his name into the mess like a trump card. I wanted to scream that Dad would never have condoned this, that he'd be furious at the disrespect. But Mom's eyes softened at the mention of him, and I realized Olivia knew exactly how to play her. The fight drained out of me. I folded the statement back into my purse and left. That night, Ryan came home, late jacket slung over his shoulder, smelling faintly of whiskey and cigars, client dinner. I sat at the table with the bill spread open like evidence. "Ryan, we need to talk." He kissed my cheek distractedly. "Can it wait? I'm wiped." "No." Olivia charged $12,000 to my credit card. Wedding vendors. Without asking. He glanced at the paper, frowned, then sighed. Okay, that's bad. But, Clara, it's family. Let it go. She'll pay you back. After the honeymoon. Maybe. Or maybe never. This isn't a small favor, it's everything I've saved. He rubbed his temples. Look, family comes first. Always. We'll figure out our finances later once we're married. It's not worth blowing up over. Blowing up? That's what he thought this was. My chest felt hollow. Ryan, the man I trusted to have my back, was telling me to swallow the betrayal, to sacrifice my security for appearances. I need you on my side, I whispered. He kissed my forehead absent-mindedly, already scrolling through his phone. I am. I'm telling you, don't make this a bigger deal than it is. The isolation pressed in heavy as wet wool. Over the next week, the exclusions sharpened like knives. Olivia hosted a wedding planning dinner with the bridal party. I saw the photos online, wine glasses raised, everyone glowing. My name wasn't on the guest list. At Sunday lunch, a cousin passed her phone around with engagement pictures, Olivia and Ryan, my Ryan, beaming between family members. I wasn't in a single frame. You never like how you look in pictures, Mom explained when she saw my face. It was as if my existence had been edited down to utility. The one who paid deposits. The one who covered emergencies. Useful, not loved. One evening, I stopped by Mom's house unannounced, hoping to catch Olivia alone. Instead, I lingered in the hallway, hidden by the archway, as their voices carried from the kitchen. Mom laughed, low and indulgent. Well, Clara always was practical. Olivia snorted. Yeah, practical. She's useful, but not important. The words slid into me like a blade. My sister's voice, casual as weather talk, dismissing me to the woman who raised us. Useful, but not important. I stood frozen, heart pounding in my ears as the truth settled. My trust wasn't just violated. My place in this family was a role I'd been cast into without consent, the dependable background character. And now they were laughing about it. By the end of the month, the balance crept higher, ballooning from 12,000 to nearly 17. Each swipe was another punch to my ribs. When I finally gathered the nerve to call the credit card company, I explained shakily that charges had been made without my permission. The woman on the line asked if I'd ever given my sister access. I admitted I had years ago for emergencies. That one word, emergencies, had become Olivia's shield. Unfortunately, the rep said, her voice flat with practiced detachment, if she was an authorized user, these may not qualify as fraudulent. My pulse roared in my ears. I wasn't ready to hang up, but she's impersonating me. Vendors think they're speaking to me. Later that night, I confirmed it. I called Magnolia Ridge, the wedding venue. A chipper receptionist said, "Hi, Clara. We've got you down for final payment next week. Olivia said you'd confirm." My hand went cold around the phone. Olivia hadn't just used my card, she'd been speaking in my name, pretending to be me. When I pressed her, Olivia sent a string of laughing emojis. "Don't be dramatic. It's all for the family. You'll be glad when you see how beautiful it turns out." That phrase echoed, "Don't be dramatic." Everyone seemed to have rehearsed it. The following weekend, I walked into a cousin's baby shower at the church basement. Streamers hung from the low ceiling tables, sagged with casseroles and cupcakes. I greeted relatives, trying to paste normalcy onto my face, when a cousin leaned in with a smile. "Oh, Clara. We missed you at the engagement party." The room tilted. "What party?" I asked. She blinked. "Olivia and Ryan's. Gorgeous dinner, catered and everything. Didn't she tell you catered?" My stomach dropped. Later, while helping stack paper plates, I overheard details: shrimp skewers, wine pairings, centerpieces with floating candles. I went home, pulled up the credit card account online, and there it was. Hearthstone Catering, $2, $800. My name at the top. My debt. But no invitation. No seat at the table. No space in the family celebration. The betrayal struck deeper than numbers. It wasn't just the money, it was the erasure. I wasn't family enough to witness my sister's joy, but I was family enough to fund it. Ryan's reaction when I told him was silence first, then a weary sigh. He pinched the bridge of his nose, a gesture I'd grown to dread. Clara, you have to stop digging at this. You're making everything dramatic. Dramatic! My voice cracked. They're stealing from me. They're cutting me out of everything. And you, he interrupted, sharp now. Do you want me to choose between you and your family? Because that's what you're asking. I stared at him, at the man who'd once driven 2 hours in a snowstorm just to bring me soup when I was sick. Now he stood on the other side, not partner, but opponent. I swallowed down everything I wanted to scream. Years of Midwest stoicism held me in check. We're taught to bear things quietly. Don't air dirty laundry. Don't start trouble. Don't make people uncomfortable. But the weight was pressing me flat. Nights grew colder. I lay awake listening to Ryan's shallow breathing, wondering what kind of love could watch me unravel and still call it drama. The fracture widened a week later. Ryan texted he'd be working late, big project at the firm. I wanted to believe him, but something in the clipped tone nagged at me. When I drove past Mom's on my way home from school, Olivia's front porch light glowed. Her curtains were open, laughter spilling into the dusk. I slowed, headlights washing the side of her house. That's when I saw it, Ryan's overnight bag. The dark canvas duffel I'd bought him 2 Christmases ago, sitting by Olivia's entryway like it belonged. For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My fiancé, the man who told me family comes first, had placed his bag at my sister's door. And suddenly, every dismissal, every sigh, every don't be dramatic, clicked into place like puzzle pieces forming a picture I didn't want to see. The next morning, denial felt easier than truth. I told myself Ryan had left his bag there by accident, maybe carpooling, maybe something innocuous. But when he came home that night, he smelled faintly of Olivia's perfume, the citrusy kind that lingered like sugar on the air. I asked, heart pounding, "Were you at Olivia's?" His eyes flickered, then settled into a practiced calm. She needed help moving a few things. Overnight. My voice cracked. He sighed like I was the child in this conversation. Clara, you're suffocating me. You check my texts, you question me constantly. Olivia understands how stressful things are. She's easy. The words landed like fists. Suffocating. Easy. My sister, easy. It didn't take long before the rest came out. Olivia didn't bother hiding it. I drove by her place 2 nights later and saw them on her porch, her head thrown back in laughter, his hand resting comfortably at her waist. When I confronted them, Olivia didn't flinch. Ryan deserves someone exciting. You've always been too safe, too boring, too controlling. Honestly, Clara, he was halfway gone already. I just gave him what he needed. Ryan stood beside her, silent, but not protesting his silence, its own confession. I felt like the air had been vacuumed from the world. My fiancé and my sister, each word a fracture. The people I trusted most had chosen each other, and worse, justified it by carving me down into something small. I fled to Mom's house, shaking with anger and desperation, hoping at least she'd understand, at least she'd see how wrong it was. Instead, she looked tired, as if I'd interrupted her with trivialities. Clara, don't ruin your sister's wedding with your drama. Drama. I choked. Mom, they're having an affair. My fiancé and your daughter. She pressed her lips together, then muttered, better to happen now than after vows are exchanged. Besides Ryan and Olivia, they make sense. You'll find someone else. Her casual dismissal gutted me more than the betrayal itself. My mother, the woman who taught me right from wrong, was willing to excuse it all to keep Olivia's big day unmarred. I stumbled out of her house, driving aimlessly until the streets blurred into country roads. I parked in a field where Dad used to take us stargazing. His voice came back in fragments, steady and warm. You teach people how to treat you. He'd said it when I was 12 and lent my allowance to a friend who never repaid me. He'd said it when Olivia threw tantrums until she got her way. He'd said it every time Mom smoothed over our family fractures with silence. Now he wasn't here, and the absence cut like glass. Dad would have seen through the lies. Dad would have defended me. Instead, I was alone, the weight of betrayal pressing me into the driver's seat. My phone buzzed on the passenger side. I wiped my eyes, picked it up, and stared at the message glowing across the screen. From Olivia. "Since you're not coming to the wedding, can you at least cover the final venue payment?" The audacity stole my breath. My sister had taken my fiancé, my money, my family's loyalty, and now she wanted me to fund the ceremony that would crown her theft. I gripped the phone until my knuckles whitened, trembling with fury. The night around me was quiet, stars scattered above, but inside I felt an explosion building. The line between victim and fool had never been clearer. The morning after Olivia's text, I woke with the hollow stillness of someone who had nothing left to lose. My pillow was stiff with dried tears, my body sore from a night of tossing and turning. I stared at the ceiling, the silence of the apartment broken only by Ryan's cologne lingering on the dresser, a smell that now made me nauseous. Something inside me snapped. The quiet endurance I'd practiced all my life wasn't survival anymore. It was suffocation. I reached for my phone and dialed the credit card company. My voice shook at first, but steadied with every word. "I need to report unauthorized charges," I said. "My sister has been posing as me, and I want to dispute $17,000. The woman on the other end asked routine questions, her tone clipped but professional. "Do you want to freeze the account?" "Yes. Immediately." I closed my eyes as she confirmed the freeze, the sound of her keystrokes like nails sealing a coffin. When she warned me that the investigation could lead to consequences for Olivia, I said simply, "I understand." And I did. By the time I hung up, I was trembling not with fear, but with adrenaline. For the first time in months, I'd said no. Next, I opened the laptop and logged into our joint accounts. Ryan's name glared at me, tethered to my future. I removed him from every account, canceled the debit card he used most, and transferred what little remained into a new account under my name only. Then I packed. The duffel bag I'd bought him, his, not mine, sat mocking in the corner. I stuffed my own clothes into an old suitcase, took the photo albums Dad had left me, and left everything else behind. Dishes, furniture, even the ring in its little dish on the nightstand. Let him have it. By midnight, I was driving through the sleeping town, my suitcase rattling in the trunk, my heart hammering with both terror and exhilaration. I didn't know where I was going, only that it wouldn't be here anymore. I landed in a motel off the highway, the kind with flickering neon and thin walls. I lay on the bed, staring at the popcorn ceiling, listening to muffled voices next door. Freedom and fear wove together inseparable. I had cut ties with the only family I'd ever known. But the chains were gone too. The next morning, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in months. Margaret Taylor, a retired teacher who'd once mentored me during my first year at Maple Ridge. She'd since become a lawyer, serving on the school board and helping educators with estate planning. When she answered, her voice was as brisk as ever. "Clara Jameson. It's been a while." I swallowed. "I need help. Legal help. With my finances. With everything." There was a pause, then the warmth I remembered seeped in. "Come in this afternoon." Her office smelled of leather and old books lined with framed diplomas and photos of community events. She listened as I poured out the entire story: the credit card fraud, Ryan's betrayal, Mom's dismissal, Olivia's audacity. I spoke until my throat was raw, and when I finished, Margaret sat back, her eyes sharp. "Clara, what you've described isn't just betrayal. It's financial abuse. You've been systematically exploited." The words hit like both a wound and a salve. She believed me. She named it. "I don't want them to go to jail," I said quickly. "I just want them out of my life. For good." "Then we'll make sure of it," she replied. "First, we'll adjust your will. Second, we'll put protections in place so they can never access your accounts again." She drafted new documents while I sat there numb but buzzing. The old will, one that split my modest assets evenly between Olivia and Ryan, was shredded. In its place, we redirected what little I had into charities with contingencies that my family would only inherit if they repaid every dollar taken. When she slid the papers across the desk, I signed them with hands that no longer shook. As I left, Margaret touched my arm. "You're not weak, Clara. You've just been taught to equate silence with love. This," she gestured at the paperwork, "is strength." That night in the motel, I sat by the window with a gas station sandwich and a notebook. I wrote everything down, every charge, every exclusion, every insult. Line after line, I poured the poison out of me, and when the pen finally stopped, I realized the weight on my chest was lighter. But the silence wasn't absolute. It was punctured by the memory of Dad's voice, steady and clear. "You teach people how to treat you." For years I'd been teaching my family that I would endure anything. Now I was teaching them something new. The next few days blurred long walks, quiet meals, restless nights. Each morning I woke terrified of what I'd lost, but by evening I felt a pulse of exhilaration at what I'd reclaimed. For the first time in years, my life was my own. Then the invitation came. It arrived at the motel in a cream-colored envelope addressed in looping calligraphy. My name spelled correctly this time grinned up at me. I slid it open with a butter knife and pulled out the thick cardstock. "You are cordially invited to celebrate the union of Olivia Jameson and Ryan Keller." My breath caught. They had actually done it. My fiancé, my sister, my family, all united in the betrayal now formalized in gold lettering. The irony was bitter after months of exclusion. Now they wanted me in the audience. Not because I mattered, but because it would look bad if I didn't show. I laughed, a sound brittle and unfamiliar. They expected me to attend as a quiet footnote, to smile politely while they toasted their triumph, to pretend I hadn't been gutted and discarded. I folded the invitation back into the envelope and set it on the nightstand. For a long time I just stared at it, my mind blank. Then slowly a thought began to form, not wild, not vengeful, but sharp and steady. I would go. Not as their pawn, not as their useful, boring, safe sister. I would go as someone who had nothing left to lose. The day of the wedding was blindingly bright, the kind of June afternoon where the sun seemed determined to expose everything. I drove myself to Magnolia Ridge, the venue my credit card had nearly bled dry to secure. The parking lot overflowed with luxury cars and SUVs. Women in sequined gowns adjusted corsages, men tugged at tuxedo collars. I smoothed my thrifted navy dress and walked inside, my chest tight, but my head held high. The reception hall glittered with chandeliers and white roses. Olivia's dream, every inch of it built on the scaffolding of my debt. Servers in black carried trays of champagne, and I caught the faint notes of a string quartet. Guests buzzed with admiration, their words like static. So elegant. A fairy tale. Worth every penny. I found my place card near the back, tucked not at a round table with cousins or friends, but at a long, narrow one shoved against the hallway wall. It was the kind of table you used when you ran out of space, a place for +1s you didn't care about. The overflow. From there I could see Olivia and Ryan glowing at the head table, her gown glittering like frost, his arm draped possessively around her chair. Their laughter carried across the hall. No one looked at me. Not really. A few pitying glances, but mostly avoidance. That was my role now, the extra, the useful ghost. Dinner passed in a blur. I picked at the dry chicken breast, the clink of silverware around me amplifying my isolation. I told myself I'd endure this one night, then vanish from their lives forever. But fate wasn't finished. Just as the toasts began, the venue manager, a tall man in a black suit, approached the head table. He leaned toward Olivia, murmuring, but his words carried enough for nearby guests to catch. Olivia's smile faltered. She whispered back, sharp and panicked. Ryan leaned in, gesturing emphatically. The manager shook his head. Finally, he straightened, cleared his throat, and raised his voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption. We've encountered a problem with payment for tonight's event. The final balance has not been cleared." A hush rippled through the hall. Forks froze mid-air. Guests leaned closer, eager. "What?" Olivia snapped, her voice cracking. The manager consulted his clipboard. "Our records show the primary cardholder, Ms. Clara Jameson, disputed the charges. The bank has frozen the account." 100 heads turned toward me. I sat still, my hands folded in my lap. Heat climbed up my neck, but I didn't flinch. Olivia surged to her feet, her veil trembling. "Are you kidding me?" she shrieked. "You did this?" Ryan followed, his face blotchy. "She's lying. She's trying to sabotage us." Clara's always been jealous. But the manager shook his head. "Sir, the bank confirmed the dispute. The charges were unauthorized." Gasps rippled. A bridesmaid covered her mouth. An uncle muttered, "Unauthorized," and someone else whispered, "Fraud." Ryan jabbed a finger at me. "This is her fault. She's pathetic, bitter." But the vendors stepped forward. The florist, the caterer, the DJ. They all nodded grimly. "She's right," the florist said. "Your sister posed as her. We spoke to Clara this week. We verified it." Murmurs spread like wildfire. Guests pulled out phones, typing furiously. I saw one cousin's camera already raised, capturing the chaos. Olivia's face twisted, her perfect makeup streaked with sweat. She pointed at me across the hall. "You're pathetic, Clara. Always the boring one, always the victim. You couldn't stand to see me happy." Her words cracked the air, sharp as glass. I rose slowly, pushing back my chair. My heart hammered, but I kept my voice steady low. "Enjoy your evening." And then I walked out. No shouting, no tears, no explanations. Just the sound of my heels against the marble floor as behind me the dream wedding unraveled. Outside, the night air was cool against my burning skin. I kept walking until the hall's music faded into silence. Hours later, back at the motel, my phone buzzed. Dozens of notifications lit the screen. A video, shaky but clear, already circulating on social media. Olivia in her white dress screaming pathetic across a glittering hall. Ryan red-faced beside her, the venue manager calmly citing fraud. The caption read, "When the family drama crashes the wedding." It already had thousands of views. The video spread faster than I could keep up with. By the next morning, the meltdown had been clipped, memed, and dissected by strangers who knew nothing about me but seemed to sense everything. Olivia's shriek, pathetic, looped over and over, set to laugh, tracks slowed down, remixed. By the end of the week, Pathetic Bride trended locally. Olivia and Ryan tried to spin it. They claimed there'd been a misunderstanding, that the vendors overreacted, that I was unstable. But the vendors defended me, receipts in hand. Guests who had witnessed the chaos posted their own videos. The story unraveled thread by thread, and the whole gown fell apart. Within weeks, Ryan packed his things and left Olivia's house. Their perfect union, built on deceit, collapsed under the weight of exposure. Olivia raged on social media, posting long captions about betrayal, painting herself as a victim of family sabotage. A few friends defended her. Most didn't. Mom called me once. Her voice was sharp, brittle. "Do you see what you've done? You destroyed your sister's wedding. You humiliated her. You've torn this family apart." The words cut deep, though not unexpectedly. Mom had always chosen peace at any cost, even if it meant slicing me open to buy it. "I didn't destroy anything," I said quietly. "I just stopped paying for it." She hung up without replying. After that, the silence from my family was complete. No calls, no invitations, no updates. Holidays came and went without a text. Photos appeared online gatherings I wasn't part of, smiling faces at tables I used to set. I was erased. The grief was real, but it was peculiar. I wasn't mourning them so much as the version of them I'd kept alive in my head. The illusion of belonging, not the reality. Still, when I sat in my small rented apartment at night, the ache of absence pressed heavy against my ribs. But absence, I learned, could be fertile ground. At school, my colleagues noticed a shift. I stayed later with students who needed help, found more patience for their small dramas. Their joy filled cracks I hadn't realized were hollow. One morning, a third grader named Jamie handed me a note in shaky pencil. "You are my favorite person because you listen." I kept it folded in my pocket like armor. My neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, a widow with a laugh like wind chimes, began knocking on my door. She brought muffins, then invitations. "We're looking for volunteers at the community center," she said one evening, standing in my doorway with a basket of zucchini bread. "Tutoring meal prep just showing up. You'd be perfect." I hesitated, then said yes. It became a rhythm tutoring kids whose parents worked double shifts helping stack cans in the food pantry, painting sets for a children's play. Each time I gave it felt different than before. It wasn't exploitation, it was choice. No one expected me to bankroll their dreams. They were simply grateful I was there. The loneliness dulled. In its place, something new grew, belonging not rooted in blood, but in reciprocity. One evening in late October, I came home from the center to find a letter in my mailbox. The envelope was plain, my name written in careful block letters. Inside, on a single sheet of paper, was this: "Clara, I know this is unexpected. You don't know me well, but I know you deserve better than what happened. I was supposed to be Olivia's fiancé once. Before Ryan. Before all of this. My name is David. I was a groomsman at the wedding you walked out of. I've seen the way they treated you, and I need to say I'm sorry for not realizing sooner. If you're willing, I'd like to meet. Just to talk. No expectations." It was signed simply, David Moore. I held the letter in both hands, the edges trembling. The name tugged at memory. Olivia's ex, the one she'd left abruptly a year ago. Back then, Mom had called him too serious, not fun enough. Now he was reaching out to me. For the first time in months, my heart skipped not with dread, but with curiosity. We met at a small cafe downtown, the kind of place where the tables were close enough to eavesdrop, but the coffee was strong enough to make you forget. I arrived early, jittery, with nerves, a scarf wrapped tight around my neck. David walked in 5 minutes later, taller than I remembered, carrying himself with a quiet steadiness that set him apart from Ryan's slick bravado. He spotted me immediately, offering a tentative smile. "Clara," he said, sliding into the chair across from me. "Thank you for coming." For a moment, neither of us knew where to start. Finally, he cleared his throat. "I need to tell you something. When Olivia and I were together, she told me things about you. She said you were unstable, that you'd ruin important events just to get attention. She painted you as this bitter, jealous sister. The words should have stung, but they didn't. They confirmed what I already suspected, that Olivia had built her world by tearing mine down." David's jaw tightened. I believed her. I let her convince me. And then at the wedding, when everything fell apart, I saw you, not screaming, not making a scene, just walking away, with dignity. It hit me then. She lied about you. I should have seen it sooner. I'm sorry. I studied him, the sincerity in his eyes, the weight of his regret. "You weren't the only one," I said softly. "Even my own mother believed her version over mine." He nodded, his expression heavy. "Still, I wish I'd had the sense to question it. You didn't deserve that." We talked for hours about more than Olivia, about books, teaching his work as an engineer, the strange loneliness of being in your 30s and realizing family isn't always what it's supposed to be. There was no agenda, no expectation. Just conversation, honest and uncluttered. By the time we stood to leave, something had shifted inside me. Not love, not yet, but a seed of trust, tentative and fragile. Over the following weeks, we met again. Sometimes for coffee, sometimes just walks through the park, conversations flowing easily. He never pushed, never asked for more than I could give. And in that space, I began to breathe again. Meanwhile, my world expanded, Mrs. Henderson introduced me to the literacy center downtown, where adults worked toward GEDs and kids practiced reading aloud. I started volunteering twice a week, guiding students through pages that once felt like locked doors. Their progress was slow, but each breakthrough lit something inside me. One evening, a teenage boy read an entire paragraph without stumbling. When he finished, he looked at me with wide, disbelieving eyes and whispered, "I did it." I smiled, and for the first time in months I felt purpose humming in my bones. My life, once defined by what I provided for others who never saw me, was now built on choice. I chose where to give whom to help and how to spend my hours. The grief of losing my family was still there, but it no longer hollowed me out. It left space for something better to grow. David noticed the changes too. One night after volunteering, he walked me to my car and said, "You seem lighter, Clara, like you're not carrying their weight anymore." I didn't realize until then that he was right. For weeks I went to bed with a kind of peace I'd thought was impossible. I woke early, eager for the day, my routines no longer shadowed by dread. Evenings with David, mornings at the literacy center, afternoons with my students, life stitched itself back together in a pattern I recognized as mine. And then one night, the phone rang. I glanced at the screen, my stomach tightening. Olivia. I almost didn't answer. I almost let it go to voicemail. But something compelled me to press play when her message came through. Her voice was ragged, desperate. "Clara, please. I need help. I have nowhere else to go." I sat frozen, the weight of her words pressing down. For months, she'd been the architect of my ruin, and now she was calling from the wreckage of her own. It was a Thursday evening when the knock came, firm, frantic. I opened the door to find Olivia standing there, her once flawless appearance crumbling. Her makeup was smudged hair pulled into a sloppy knot, clothes wrinkled as if she'd slept in them. She clutched a duffel bag, the same brand I had once bought for Ryan. "Clara," she breathed, her eyes wide and wet. "Please, I need help." I didn't step aside. I leaned against the frame, heart steady in a way that surprised me. "What do you need?" she sniffled, dropping the bag at her feet. "I have nowhere to go. Ryan's gone. Mom won't even answer my calls anymore, and my roommate kicked me out. Just let me stay here, just for a while. I'll get back on my feet, I promise." Her words tumbled out, rehearsed but shaky. I crossed my arms. "Are you here to apologize?" "Yes," she said quickly. "I'm sorry if I upset you." I almost laughed. If I upset you. The apology wasn't about what she had done, but about how I had reacted. It was currency, a down payment for entry into my life again. I shook my head. "No, Olivia. You're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry for what you lost. You're sorry you don't have access to my money anymore." Her lips parted in shock, then pressed into a thin line. "You're twisting everything. I'm your sister. Family helps each other. You think you're so righteous, but all you've done is turn your back on us." "I turned my back on being used," I said evenly. Her eyes narrowed. The sweetness cracked and the venom I remembered so well spilled out. "You'll die alone, Clara. That's what you're choosing. No husband, no family, no one to take care of you. You'll rot in some little apartment with nobody who cares." The words landed like arrows aimed at the softest part of me, the fear that had haunted me since Ryan's betrayal, since Mom's dismissal. But this time, instead of piercing, they fell blunt. Because I wasn't alone. Not anymore. I smiled slow and certain. "No, Olivia. I won't die alone. I'll live free." Her face flushed crimson, and for a moment she looked like a child denied a toy. I picked up her bag, set it gently outside the door, and stepped back inside. Then I shut the door firmly, the latch clicking with finality. I stood there for a long moment, leaning against the wood, listening to her muffled footsteps fade down the hallway. My hands shook, but not from fear, from release. The silence that followed wasn't heavy, it was clean. Weeks passed, and I carried that moment like a talisman. Olivia's words tried to echo in my head, but they never stuck. Each day I was reminded that I wasn't rotting in loneliness. I was building something real. One crisp Monday morning, I walked into my classroom, arms full of spelling lists and storybooks. The chatter of my students filled the room, bright, chaotic, alive. When they saw me, their faces lit up, and a few shouted Miss Jameson as though my presence was the best part of their day. I paused at the threshold, drinking it in. These children weren't my blood, but they were my family. Not because they needed me as a resource, but because they saw me, valued me. In their joy, in their trust, I belonged. At the end of the day, one of my students, Jamie, the same boy who'd once whispered I did it after reading his first paragraph, pressed a folded piece of paper into my hand. I opened it later at my desk. In crooked letters it said, "You make people better." I traced the words with my finger, my chest tight with something like gratitude. Epilogue. That evening, I drove to Mom and Dad's old house on the edge of town. The yard was overgrown now, the shutters peeling, but I still had the key. I let myself in, walked past the quiet rooms and into the living room where Dad's rocking chair still sat by the window. I lowered myself into it, the wood creaking in familiar protest, and let the late afternoon sun pour across my lap. I closed my eyes, imagining Dad's voice, his steady wisdom. You teach people how to treat you. I had finally learned. The fear of dying alone no longer haunted me because I'd discovered the truth. Family isn't the people who drain you. Family is the ones who lift you higher. Outside, the world was glowing gold, autumn settling in. It didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a beginning. And for the first time in my life, that was enough. And with Clara closing that final door, her life no longer belonged to those who took without giving. It was hers again. If this story resonated with you, let us know your thoughts in the comments we read. Every comment and your voice shapes what we share next. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of betrayal, reckoning, and justice. Thank you for listening. This has been a story from Revenge Served Cold. We'll see you next time.